So apparently, Wizards of the Coast has finally published an update to their open game license, which came out about 10 a.m. Central Time. It looks like I'm about 40 minutes behind the times because I was working on other things. This is being considered the 2.0 edition. It's a very interesting document. They are definitely taking the approach if it was just a draft, which most people are saying that's not correct because you sent out contracts. We were just soliciting feedback. That's not true because you sent out contracts. They have made some changes, but ultimately, I think nobody trusts them at this point, and I think it remains very evident from this document that their only objective at this point, the number one most important thing for them, is to eliminate the OGL 1.0A. That's their sole objective in all of this is to get that document off the table because they can't have that around anymore. They want it gone. So this is after Paizo's shots fired last night. So this is very interesting. We're going to go through this live. I've only briefly glimpsed through this, so we're going to be diving into this in greater detail throughout this video. If you like what you see here today, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon as we continue to have conversations around the evolution of the open game RPG license from Paizo and the ongoing drama with the OGL 1.1 or 2.0 as it's being referred to now from Wizards of the Coast. If you can, support with super chats on these premieres and live streams, super thanks on older videos, and don't forget memberships here on YouTube. We'll talk about other stuff at the end, but in the meantime, let's dive into this. When we initially conceived of revising the OGL, it was with three major goals in mind. First, we wanted the ability to prevent the use of D&D content from being included in hateful and discriminatory products. Well, I kind of think that that's already covered under like constitutional laws against hate speech and stuff. I could be wrong on that, but anyway, sounds to me like you're just trying to censor people for producing content that fits within your specific guideline of what is acceptable. Second, we wanted to address those attempting to use D&D and Web3 blockchain games and NFTs by making clear that OGL content is limited to tabletop role-playing content like campaigns, modules, and supplements. I could understand a little bit about the NFT stuff and all that other stuff. I can kind of understand needing to tighten up the language a little bit around that. This third part, though, they said we wanted to ensure that the OGL for the content creator, the homebrewer, the aspiring designer, or players of the community was for them, not for major corporations to use for their own commercial and potential purpose. Now, someone mentioned this in the comments the other day, and this is a good conversation point. There aren't any commercial products. There are no major corporations out there that are even close to what Dungeons and Dragons has in terms of a market share. If I'm not mistaken, they went from like a 40% market share to like an 85% market share in terms of the tabletop space. Like they still dominate by a big portion, or at least they did until their current fiasco. It says driving these goals were two simple principles. Our job to be stewards of the game, which you kind of failed at, and the OGL exists for the benefit of the fans. You have shown that that's not the case. Nothing about those principles is wavered for a second. I completely disagree with you because you tried to profiteer off of your content creators. They say this is why our early drafts of the OGL contained the provisions that they did. They were not drafts. You sent these out with contracts attached. We've seen the contracts. The language was provided to content creators and publishers so their feedback could be considered before anything was finalized. In addition, the language allowed us to address discriminatory and hateful content and clarify what types of products the OGL covers. Our drafts also included royalty language designed to apply to large corporations attempting to use OGL content, which again, what large corporations? There are no large corporations that we are aware of that were attempting to use OGL content. What large corporations do you refer to? It was never our intent to impact the vast majority of our community. However, it's clear from the reaction that we rolled a 1. It has become clear that it is no longer possible to fully achieve all three goals while still staying true to our principles. So here's what we're doing. The next OGL will contain provisions that allow us to protect and cultivate the inclusive environment we are trying to build and specify that it covers only content for TTRPGs. That means other expressions, such as educational and charitable campaigns, live streams, cosplays, VTT uses, etc., will remain unaffected by any OGL update. Content already released. This is, again, it's important and it's good, but you also have to understand that they're making concessions at this point because they want 1.0A gone. They want it completely gone. So they're saying, look what we're willing to do for you. Just please let us get rid of 1.0a. We just, please. So they're saying, all right, fair enough. We're not going to retroactive this. 1.0a content will remain unaffected. So if you've got something launched under 1.0a, okay. It also says here, though, they were going to go after live streams. That's Critical Role. Cosplay, that's all the TikTokers and people who do the tavern things where they do homebrew, like making potions and giving quests. They were going to go after the cosplayers, the TikTokers, the live stream people like, Dungeon Dudes and Critical Role and everything else. But the important thing here is VTT uses as well, because they want everybody subscribing to their VTT program, not other VTT programs at all. So this is the most important part of this document to me. It says what the new version will not contain is any royalty structure. So they realized that 25% was such a huge deal that they've stripped it out. It also will not include the license back provision that some people were afraid was a means for us to steal work. I'm sorry, it wasn't some people, it was the entire frickin' internet. It was not just some people, it was your entire fan base, the entire third party publishing industry. Everyone was up in arms over the 25% clause and the fact that you were trying to say that you had the right to use their work for whatever means you wanted to with no royalties owed to other people. They literally say here, that thought never crossed our minds. I'm going to call bullshit on that 100%. It never crossed your minds. Under any new OGL, you will own the content you create. Because remember, they have to have a new GLGL. They want to eradicate 1.0a. We're not going to own your content. Any language we put down will be crystal clear and unequivocal on that point. The license back language was intended to protect us and our partners from creators who incorrectly allege that we steal their work simply because of coincidental similarities. As we continue to invest in the game that we love and move forward in partnerships in film, television, digital games, that risk is simply too great to ignore. The new OGL will contain provisions to address that risk, but we will do it without a license back and without suggesting we have rights to the content you create. They got scared. A couple of last thoughts. First, we won't be able to release the new OGL today. That's obvious because Paizo did what they did, and now this is going to have to be gone through with a fine-tooth comb. It's going to have to be vetted because people, the community at large and all the other third-party publishing companies took that draft that they claim is a draft, even though it was a contract, and they ripped it to shreds. Like it didn't. Here's the thing: it didn't even take someone with legal expertise to rip it to shreds. It was so blatantly obvious that they were trying to pull off theft and just forcing people into these draconic terms. So they're not going to release it today. We need to make sure we get it right, but it is coming. Okay. Second, you're going to hear people say that they won and we lost because making your voices heard forced us to change our plans. Those people will only be half right. They won, and so did we. Holy crap. Look at how this is. Whoever's in charge right now is literally saying, you didn't win, we won. You can say what you want, but we, Wizards of the Coast, are the true victors in this because you didn't actually win. We didn't fold. It wasn't because you made your voices heard for us to change our plans. They are really doubling down on that whole the community are at fault here, not us line of thinking. Oh, wow. Our plan was always to solicit the input of our community before any update to the OGL. I just don't see that as true considering that the draft that was sent out was a contract. It had contracts associated with it. We realized that we did not do that this time, and we're sorry for that in terms of delighting fans and creating experiences together that everyone loves. Our goal was to get exactly the type of feedback on which provisions worked and which did not, which we ultimately got from you. Any changes this major could only have been done well if we were willing to take that feedback, no matter how it was provided, so we are. Thank you for caring enough to let us know what works and what doesn't, what you need and what scares you. Without knowing that, we can't do our parts to make sure that the new OGL matches our principles. Finally, we appreciate the chance to make this right. We love D&D's devoted players and the creators who take them on so many incredible adventures. We won't let you down. Well, unfortunately, Wizards of the Coast, that ship has already sailed. You've lost the confidence and trust that so many people placed in you. And by coming out and admitting that you were wrong, which is a good thing, it's a good thing. There are some provisions here that I can't deny look good on first glance, but don't let those things trick you, ladies and gentlemen, because at the end of the day, they're still telling you that a new OGL is coming, and they're not going to let 1.0a stand, which means at any point in time they could change, they could decide to revise it again in the future, because that's what they're doing here. They're revising it based on their needs. And the only reason they're making any adjustments whatsoever is because the community at large came up in force. You, the community, me, everyone around us who loves tabletop, we rose up and we said, we're not going to take this. You can't take 25% of our profit. You can't get a royalty free license to our intellectual property to use as you see fit. No, we want the 1.0A as it was to remain in effect. And what they're saying here is that, well, we can't do that. We have to have a new one because of all these reasons. But we'll let you keep, those of you who have existing products in 1.0A, you can keep doing that. There are concessions here, but I'm not fooled by this. I've already made the decision to move away after Paizo's announcement yesterday that they're developing this open RPG system, Orc, um, um, with the help of all these third-party publishers. We're already making that switch and changing over for our own products. And me, and as a personal individual, I'm now going to start investing my time into the Pathfinder franchise, Starfinder franchise, and the new upcoming rule set that all those people are creating. So for me, the ship has already sailed. Now I know for some people they're going to look at this and say, "Hey, at least Wizards is willing to listen." The only reason they're willing to listen was because enough people stood up and said no. The unfortunate reality is most of those people have already left. And I don't think there's going to be enough people left behind who honestly care enough to continue to raise their voice in frustration. So at some point, the only people who are going to remain are the loyalists who are happy to accept whatever it is that Wizards of the Coast comes up with because they're so attached to the brand identity Dungeons and Dragons and also to Dragonlance and Forgotten Realms and everything else. And even though I love those franchises and I will continue to probably consume, novels and film and television and things of that nature, I will no longer be participating in any um, you know, products that are going to be under the new OGL. That doesn't have anything to do with old products. I love my second edition AD&D collection. Would be happy to run campaigns from that. Dragonlance, love the Dragonlance campaigns, things of that nature. But the new terms and conditions, I don't want anything to do with that because it's clear that they're going to continue to manipulate and tweak things as they see fit and only change things for the better of the people when there's enough pushback. And at some point, everyone's going to be elsewhere and there's not going to be pushback. And that's an unfortunate reality for things. Anyway, that's my take on things. Hopefully you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on the new draft language, the update on the open game license from Wizards of the Coast. Also, let me know your thoughts on the Paizo announcement yesterday. Continue to follow along, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Support if you can with the super chat. Join as a member of the channel here. You can also do super thanks after the fact. Never forget our Patreon page and our project, the Discord channel. I'll see everybody in the next episode.